Okay, what if I told you there's a secret economic blueprint that connects ancient Rome, the Vatican, revolutionary socialists, and even the founders of fascism? Seriously, an idea that has been hiding in plain sight for millennia, shaping empires and sparking revolutions.
Now, it's not capitalism, and it's not communism. It's a powerful third path called corporatism. And I'm telling you, understanding this hidden blueprint is going to fundamentally change how you see, well, pretty much all of modern history. All right, let's get into it.
So, to really get this, we have to go back. No, I mean, way back. This isn't some 20th century idea. Its roots are buried deep, deep in the foundations of Western civilization itself.
We're talking about a journey that starts in the Roman Empire with these groups called the collegia. Then it evolves into the all-powerful medieval guilds, and later it gets reimagined by thinkers in the 19th century who were desperate for an escape from the chaos of the Industrial Revolution.
So picture this, ancient Rome. You've got these things called collegia. Now, on the surface, they're just clubs for your job or your religion. But here's the thing, they weren't just social clubs. Oh no. They demanded absolute loyalty. They enforced incredibly strict group discipline. If you stepped out of line in your work or your worship, you weren't just shunned, you were kicked out. This was like the very first draft of a blueprint for a hyper-organized, top-down society.
Okay, now let's flash forward to the medieval period. This idea gets absolutely supercharged with the rise of the corporazioni, or what we know as guilds. And let me be really clear here. The guilds didn't just influence the economy, they were the economy. They controlled literally everything. The prices, the wages, who was even allowed to work, and exactly how they did it. We're talking about total suffocating control.
And this quote from historian Edward P. Cheney, it just nails it. He wrote that life back then was corporate rather than individual. Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. Your identity wasn't you, it was your guild, your town, your group. The individual was basically an afterthought, completely subordinate to the collective.
And this idea, this dream of a golden age of perfect order, was so powerful that even in the chaos of the 1800s, some thinkers wanted to bring it back. They called it feudal socialism. Karl Marx himself just scoffed at it, calling it a reactionary dream, a fantasy of turning back the clock on capitalism. But here's the thing about this blueprint, it just refused to die.
And this is where our story takes a truly fascinating turn. Because the blueprint gets a modern update, a moral update, and an incredibly influential one from a source you might not expect, the Vatican.
So you have the industrial age just ripping society apart at the seams, and the Catholic Church sees a massive crisis. On one side, you've got what they called liberal atomism, basically every man for himself. And on the other, you've got the raging fire of socialist class war. So what does the church do? It reaches back into history, dusts off that ancient blueprint, and rebrands it as an organic society, where every single part works together for the good of the whole body.
And what's so wild is how the church positioned itself. It rejected both systems, flat out. Capitalism? Condemned for greed and exploiting workers. Socialism? Condemned for trying to abolish private property. The papal answer was this third path, corporatism, a system where classes are basically forced to cooperate, whether they like it or not.
And here it is, the core principle laid out in this landmark 1891 document, Rerum Novarum. Pope Leo XIII stated it as plainly as you possibly can. Each needs the other. Capital cannot do without labor, nor labor without capital. You see, this wasn't a friendly suggestion. It was a moral command for social harmony, enforced from the top down.
Then, 40 years later, in Quadragesimo Anno, Pope Pius XI basically laid out the modern instruction manual for a tripartite corporatist state. Think of it like a three-legged stool. You've got organized labor in unions or syndicates, you've got organized industry owners, and playing referee between them, acting as the supreme authority, is the state. Together, these three groups would sit down and literally negotiate how to run the entire national economy.
So, we have an ancient structure, we have a religious moral code. But this is where the story takes its most shocking and violent turn. Because this blueprint, designed for social harmony, was about to be hijacked by revolutionaries with a, let's just say, a very different agenda.
Okay, first, over in Britain, you get something called guild socialism. They looked at the old guild idea and gave it a socialist twist. So the state owns everything, but democratic worker guilds get to run the industries. The key idea here was organizing society by your function, your job, not just by where you live.
But guild socialism was just the warm-up act. Then came syndicalism, and this idea was way more radical. These guys weren't trying to reform the state, they wanted to burn it to the ground and replace it. Their vision? A giant federation of all-powerful labor unions, or syndicates, would seize total control of everything, creating what they called a workshop without employers.
And this, right here, sets the stage for the final terrifying fusion. Because what happens when you take this revolutionary socialist idea of an all-powerful union structure and you smash it together with another equally explosive ideology?
You get this. The shocking, world-changing equation at the very heart of fascist corporatism. It is the organizational muscle of revolutionary syndicalism, fused with the raw, emotional power of militant nationalism.
This is the mutation. They called it national syndicalism. It kept the structure of socialism, but ripped out its soul. It took that powerful union framework, but, and this is the absolute key, it threw out class warfare completely. The new enemy wasn't the boss, it was other nations. The new rallying cry, nationalism is our socialism. And all those powerful worker unions, they were now slaves, subject to the absolute discipline of the state.
So let's just step back. The blueprint we've uncovered? It's an idea born in Rome, given a moral code by the Vatican, and then weaponized by revolutionaries. It is a ready-made system for total social and economic control.
And that leaves us with a truly terrifying question. We've traced this blueprint through all of history. We've seen the theory. But what happens when it's finally put into practice? What happens when this system for total control falls into the hands of ruthless leaders who see it not as a path to harmony, but as the ultimate weapon for absolute power?
In Part 2, we open the case files. We are going to investigate exactly how this blueprint was used by the developmental dictatorships of the 20th century, from fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, all the way to the communist giants and modern powers who use this very system to this day.
You are not going to want to miss it. Because the theory is one thing. The reality, well, the reality is something else entirely.